Welcome to Gold Derby. I'm Denton Davidson with Marcus James Dixon, and we're here with four-time Oscar nominee and SAG Award winner Annette Bening, who stars as Diana Nyad in Nyad, currently streaming on Netflix. Annette, congratulations on this film. It's gotten such great reviews for your performance and Jodies as well. What was it like stepping into the swim cap of Diana Nyad, and how much of her story were you aware of before you decided to take this role on?
I wasn't really aware. I remember hearing about the swim at the time when she achieved it, but I didn't follow her, except I used to listen to her on NPR because she used to be on NPR regularly. And I remember her voice and I remember the timbre of it and just her intelligence. She would weigh in on controversial ethical issues in athletics. And I remember that, but I didn't really know a lot about her. And I was really, I mean, I loved the script when I read it. I just immediately wanted to do it and immediately thought, oh my God, the story's great. I was just moved by it and moved by her. So I was very excited.
And you and Jodie Foster have this amazing chemistry that really comes through the screen. And she, of course, plays Diana's trainer, Bonnie. What is Jodie like behind the scenes when the cameras aren't rolling?
Jodie is more experienced than anybody, always, unless maybe my husband's on the set and he's, I mean, she's been in the business 57 years. I asked her the other day when we were doing an interview, I said, how long have you been in the business? She's like 57 years. She just turned 61, I think. I mean, she started when she was a kid, a little kid. She is incredibly experienced. She's a director, she's a writer. She really gets the practical part of the business, the organization that's required, all the nuts and bolts of the business of making movies. So she's got all that. She brings all that to the table. But she doesn't take herself very, very seriously. When they told me she was interested in doing the movie, first of all, they told me they were going to ask her to do the movie. And I was like, are you kidding? Oh my God, that would be so amazing. And I thought, she probably won't do it. I don't know why I thought that. And, she doesn't work that much. She's very selective. She could play Diana. They had already asked me to play Diana. So she came over to my house to meet me. And I got the feeling she was like, okay, what's she really like? And, how's this going to be? And we got on very well. We had met, but we didn't really know each other. So when she signed on, I was just over the moon. She had a lot of ideas. She had a lot of, criticisms. She had a lot of like, we should do this and this doesn't work and this is too long and this should be shorter and can we do that? Narrative structure ideas that were excellent. And I just kept saying, yes, say all of that. We all, so very quickly we got on board together, and then everyone very much had this mentality on the team. Everyone was open to the best idea. Everyone was open to saying, is it this or is it that? And how do we create the narrative arc? I mean, I felt that was really my responsibility in terms of Diana, that she starts one way and that she has this evolution. So Jodie was incredibly helpful and very supportive. She always had my back. She was always saying, Annette, do you need to get out of the water? I said, no, I'm good. And she actually jumped in the water, as you know. Sorry, spoiler alert. So, I'm just so grateful to her. We became friends. She's an incredible person.
One of the things I love about this movie is that there's just a little bit of humor to it as well. And she's a little narcissistic, Diana, and they kind of have fun with that. Did she have a good sense of humor about that as you've spoken with her, or what were her feelings about that part of her portrayal?
She does have a good sense of humor about it, and she allowed us to stretch certain things and massage certain things in order to create a structure, because anytime you're telling the real life story of a real person, it rarely meets the demands of what a narrative structure needs. So she was very kind about that and very generous to us, because we needed to have that. It's interesting too about great athletes, any great, extreme athlete, they do have to sort of have a sense of themselves as being worthy of something, worthy of that kind of commitment. And that is actually something that I think Diana had to earn, because she had a lot of bad things happen to her as a kid, with her own family, with her coach. She had a lot to overcome. But to get to the place where you say, you know, I'm worthy of making this try at something. I mean, I think we all feel that. Do I feel worthy of it? Am I able to do something? And, you know, does it really matter? Well, why work so hard? Why put so much into something? I don't care what it is. You have to answer that question for yourself. And these extreme athletes, they have to have a good opinion of themselves. And it's interesting because I think because she's a woman, it's a different thing. I don't know how to explain it. But, you know, Muhammad Ali, would we ever say, you know, wow, he kind of like really speaks positively about himself, doesn't he? And we say, oh, well, of course, he's Muhammad Ali. Well, Diana's like that. She has that. She has that, you know, heroic sense of life. And thank God she does. But she also has a lot of softness and vulnerability and questioning. And, you know, just like anybody, she has so many doubts, just like all of us. And when I met her and I saw that in her eyes, I was very touched by that. And I really wanted to find a way to get that across. And it meant a lot to me to try to do that. That was part of my, you know, search.
I'm curious, what is the hardest part about starring in a biopic like Nyad, where the person you're portraying is still alive? I imagine it's a completely different experience than, say, when you did, you know, the Queen and Richard III.
Yeah, she'd been dead for a long time.
A couple years.
It's a tremendous responsibility, especially because as I got to know her, I just loved her. She's very lovable, and I think she, as much as she wanted to do the film, and she's very happy with it now, I think it was scary because she knew that it was in our hands. So I think I felt a tremendous responsibility to try to find a way to tell her story that was interesting and entertaining and also truthful. I just love her. She's an incredible woman and she's a lot of fun. And she's a big person, you know, she is. When she's in the room, it's like, whoa, Diana. She is got stories and she's curious and just like eats up life. So I felt incredible response. I still do, although I finished the movie, but I still, even talking about it, I feel a responsibility towards Diana.
There's so much acting in this movie in the face, so many close-ups of exhaustion and swelling. What was the most challenging part for you, knowing that the camera was right there? And also, how much time did you spend in the pool or the ocean? Where were you swimming?
Well, if we'd been in the ocean the whole time, we would have been like insane, because it's impossible to shoot on the ocean, and water movies are notoriously difficult. So we were in a tank. Yeah. So we were in a 70-meter by 70-meter tank in the Dominican Republic. And that's where we did most of the shooting. We did have one day at the very end where Jimmy Chin, one of our directors, who is also an extreme athlete, he's an alpinist and a mountain climber and does all this crazy stuff, but he's also like a swimmer and a surfer. And so we actually went out on a boat with our underwater photographer, and we did jump in the ocean and we did some shots, which was really cool. But most of the time we were in the tank. Yeah, we had long days in the tank. And I liked it. I liked being in the water. I just ended up really loving it. It was also a way to kind of calm myself down. I swim now. I'm now a dedicated swimmer. I wasn't really a swimmer when I started the movie. I had to learn how to do that. But yeah, I spent a lot of time in the water, and I enjoyed it. And there were a couple of days we had to do some pool stuff as well. There's scenes in a pool where I was in the water. I remember the Saturdays, because we shot Monday through Friday. I remember on Saturday just being absolutely exhausted. It was like being a noodle on the couch, like staring, really fried. But then, you know, we'd get back up do some more in the next week, and I loved it. I love the challenge.
The filmmakers, Jimmy and Elizabeth, they made a huge name for themselves in the documentary field, but this is their first scripted feature. I'm curious, what made you, as the actress, take a chance on them and say, I think they can pull this off?
Well, when I read the material, I just thought it was excellent. I thought it was so powerful. And I knew that they had made Free Solo. When they brought the project to me, and I thought that movie was, I mean, God, it just was incredibly powerful. They clearly understood how to create a story, even though that was a documentary, and they've made many really powerful documentaries. So I figured that they would, that the way they would work would be that they would go for excellence, just because of their nature. I spoke with them, and they're just incredibly interesting people. They're both highly intelligent, driven. They've got a company, and they've always got like 5 things going on. They're just, flying all over the world all the time, and they're incredibly energetic people. So in listening to them discuss the story, I just knew. Plus, like I said, when I read it, I just thought, my God, this is great. I loved it.
I read this, so correct me if I'm wrong. I know not everything you read is true, but I read this, that there was a time in your life when you were young that you would go out on fishing boats, and you were a cook, and you had some scuba diving experience, perhaps. Did that teach you anything about boat life or prepare you in any way? Or what are your memories of that?
Yes, it did. I was never a swimmer. I was never a lap swimmer, but I grew up in San Diego. So I grew up in the pools in the neighborhood, pool down the road. And then when I was 16, I became a certified diver, scuba diver. By the way, the diving in Southern California is not that good, but I didn't know that at the time. I mean, it's okay, but it's not like a place that's renowned for scuba diving, because the water's cold. And anyway, but I did it with a friend of mine. And so when you become a certified scuba diver, you have to jump off of a boat. It's one of the things you have to do. You have to do a beach dive, meaning you have to have all your equipment on. And of course, there we have to wear wetsuits and the whole thing. You have to walk in and do a beach dive. And then you also have to jump off of a boat. So in order to do that, I went out on this scuba diving boat. Just picture like a 65-foot scuba diving boat, not super, like you said, like a sport fishing boat, except it's not fishing, it's diving. So it's got, tanks around the back of it. And so I went on this trip because I had to get certified, and then they needed a cook. So then I was 16, and I was still in high school, actually. So I remember driving my mother's station wagon down to the dock. I don't know how I don't remember the details, except that, like, how did I know? I don't know. But anyway, I went in, and Bill Johnston was his name, the skipper. And I said, could I be a cook? And so I remember the first weekend I was the assistant cook. And the galley is small, and we were cooking for about 20 to 30 people. And then very quickly I became the cook, and I was really mediocre. I just want to say that. And I was really I thought it was great making little squares of scrambled eggs. Like I remember that, thinking, oh, look, it's a little brown square. That's kind of cool. But I was making grilled cheese and really basic stuff. And we did 1 and 2 day trips mostly, but then we also did 5-day trips to Mexico. So I did that for a year. So, I was diving, jumping off the boat, and on the ocean a lot, which I loved. I feel very comfortable on the ocean. So yeah, I did that.
Oh, cool.
So Nyad has been making the rounds around town with screenings and Q&As and receptions. And it makes me wonder, as someone who's been through the awards season before, what's your favorite part and least favorite part about awards season in Hollywood?
Favorite part is seeing all my buddies that I made the movie with, especially because for a while during the strike, we didn't get to see each other. People were seeing the movie, but that was kind of nice too, as people were just out there seeing the movie and I didn't have to talk about it, which in a way was kind of fun. and people would be sending me messages, and I would start getting calls from people that were like Telluride and stuff, like, oh, Annette, I saw the movie, I really liked it. That was really cool. So my favorite part is definitely hanging out with Jodie, seeing Jimmy and Chai, our screenwriter, Julia. We all became, you become really close. And this was a tough movie to make. So when something's tough, you get even closer because you have to wrestle with things and figure things out. Least favorite, I don't know. I'm lucky because I did start so long ago, and I know what it's like. I knew what it was like before there was so much media and just so many venues, I guess is what it is, really. So I feel lucky that I had a taste of that before, and I had a taste of before I was ever known and people were asking me to start doing interviews and things, I was always a little bit like, how do I do that? And I'm not really a storyteller, and how do I talk about things? And I still struggle with that sometimes, I still wonder about it. I kind of like the work to try to speak for itself. But, it's part of the deal, and it's okay. And it's wonderful talking to you. It's fun. I'm on the other side of the world. I'm in Australia. You can believe that. I do that, but I'm in Australia. So, it's all part of it now, and that's okay.
When you're obviously a member of the Academy now. So when you're filling out your own Oscar ballot, are you and Warren like comparing notes, or are you like, don't look at what I'm doing? Are you very secretive? Or do you fight? Do you have the same taste? What is that like at home?
That's a good question. I think I guess, let me see. I think there have probably been times when we discussed it, like, what do you think about, this person or that? Yeah, I guess we probably have. But I just, I do it separately. I do it, I sneak on my computer and do it myself.
I have a pretty good idea.
There's always like a time limit, right? You have to do it by a certain time. So he's generally waiting until the last minute. But yeah, no, it's fun. It's fun to, make your vote.
Well, I have a pretty good idea who he's probably going to pick for Best Actress this year.
Yes, I hope so.
Annette, congratulations on Nyad. Incredible performance and film. I enjoyed it so much. And thanks for chatting with us at Gold Derby today.
Thank you, Denton and Marcus. It was a pleasure.